Did you find something? What'd you find there?
Let's see what we got. Oh, it's a treasure map. Come on, show me the money, ZeniMax. God, Somerset? There's no treasure in Somerset.
What's going on, YouTube? So today we have a little bit of a trickier topic to cover. And why is it tricky, you might be wondering? And that is because as a content creator, I like to have easy, simplified knowledge that I can impart on somebody like, hey, if it's the weekend, do this. Every Tuesday, you can do that. There's no real semblance of consistency when it comes to treasure maps. So we're going to be talking about that today in this video because we're going to go through which ones are worth doing, why some of them are so valuable, and how you can know as an ESO player should you be doing that treasure map, because you probably are getting tons of them, and things like the Halloween event only are going to stock up on more of them. And so this is just a brief shout out to Red Link, who I actually believe I used in my previous video. He has a great Reddit post that goes through the maps up to 2 years ago, kind of what's good and what's worth doing in them. So brief disclaimer before we start going through the list. A lot of these motifs that you're going to be seeing, you also have to consider the longer it's been out, the more people have had a chance to find it, which means that the value is generally going to be less. When a brand new zone comes out that has a really cool looking motif, it's going to be worth a lot but in 5 years, it's not going to maintain that same value. Supply, demand, once you've got a motif bound to your sticker book once, it's yours forever. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Also note too, that doesn't necessarily explain this in this part of the video, but it's not just the only things that you're going to be getting are these motifs. You also have a chance, obviously, to get the overland gear and things like that. We're not necessarily going to break down the overland gear pieces. We do have a Market Watch video that we do every month that goes through which sets are selling. And if there's a set from a specific zone, we would highlight in that video. So we're not going to go through every little nitty-gritty detail, but let's just go through the highlights. And so the first thing you'll notice is you can see that pretty much every zone has a motif that's attached to it. But we also have to add another piece of grain of salt to this, and that is not all motifs are created equally. So obviously the ADs got their Ancestral High Elf, Ancestral Orc for the Daggerfall Covenant, and Ancestral Nord for the Ebonheart Pact. A couple things too. Things, such as, for example, like an axe, are going to be nowhere near as much as things like legs, chest, and those other types of pieces. I like to give people the example of, if you can see it, the more you can see of it, the more it's probably valuable, and the more people that are probably having it. So when you have things like axes, well, if you were to go to Cyrodiil right now, or into any sort of zone that's got a lot of people, how many people are using axes? A couple, but how many of them are wearing a chest? How many of them are wearing pants? That's where it could become one of those you have to take it with a grain of salt. These are also all the base game ones up to number 4, so 1 through 3, base game. All of these do decently well. I would say really focus on those big pieces. If you start getting legs, pants, chest, head, those are the ones that you should focus on if you actually get them to do. Obviously, pants and legs, you can, it's the same thing, but you get my point. And then it starts to get interesting because some zones added new motifs to them. So you can see that not all of them have it. You'll notice that, for example, Somerset doesn't have one. Why? I don't know. I guess they were like, we threw stuff into the fishing mechanic. We don't need to add anything else. And this is not comprehensive. We'll go through the ones that were added later after we go through the Ancestral Reach, which you can get through your Black Reach ones, which I would encourage you to do. Everything from 4 and beyond and everything we talk about afterwards is 100% worth doing. Do those treasure maps almost universally. So that you'll get your Ancestral Reach, Ancestral Akaviri, and then Ancestral Daedric. The reason you want to do these bad boys is that not a lot of people do these treasure maps, and they are still worth a really good chunk of gold, especially Ancient Daedric from the Deadlands and Ancestral Akaviri from Blackwood. Also, starting in Blackwood, a lot of those plots and things that you're going to get, the sets that you're going to get, are also really good. And what I mean by plots is the items that you need to, create the sets from there, like your Leowyn clasps. Things like that are really going to start to kick up in value. Blackwood also has good sets, so does the Deadlands, and so does Markarth. It's generally more of a trend that you'll see in DLC zones, except for Somerset. Again, I don't know why Somerset, just unless you're fishing there, really no good purpose to go there. But that's a trend that you also start to notice. Another trend is companion gear also really starts to drop. I don't know how they coded this. So when Blackwood was released, you could get companion gear. You had a really good chance to get companion gear from Blackwood treasure maps. But here's the problem, is companion gear can still drop from other places. So does it in old treasure maps you can get companion gear? Can you get it at a good rate in the newer treasure maps? It's a bit of a, we don't know, because they're not always so forthcoming with their code, but it's something to keep in mind to check out for companion gear. So always have your companion out pretty much when you're doing any activity, but definitely when you're opening treasure maps, especially in DLC zones. And this is MMO Gath, who actually shouts out my video at the end of my old one. So we're going to go through his webpage where he kind of highlights or re-highlighted treasure maps can contain antiquity leads, which is actually how you get your motifs. By the way, you actually get it as a lead. Crafting material sets to obtain the secret loot treasure maps must be in your inventory. Go to the specific location, yada yada. You probably know all this. The best treasure maps. So he talks about the Deadlands, Blackwood, High Isle. So High Isle is one that obviously was not in the previous Reddit post because it hadn't been released yet. So keep that in mind, that High Isle drops Ancestral Breton. So keep that in mind for you. Then he talks about the Blackwood, Blackreach, Western Skyrim, etc. But he also goes into saying, you know, these are some maps that you might kind of skip on over because they don't have any cool things with them. But we talked a little bit about it earlier, and that is the style materials. Murkmire's got the Hackwing Plumage, Northern and Southern Elsewhere, Shimmering Sand, and Clockwork City, Tempered Brass. Also, Northern Elsewhere has some pretty decent sets to it. And then hold your map in your mailboxes is his final tip. I think I might have mentioned that in this video. And then boom, he links my video. So thank you for linking my video. And hopefully, you know, this is helpful to kind of people who are into treasure maps. So we got some more zones to talk about. We got Galen, we got Apocrypha, and we have Necrom. Next is Galen, which throws a little bit of a sticky wicket at us because if you're interested in getting a skin, you get the skin from the treasure maps, which is not a very popular decision that ZeniMax made. So just want to throw that out there. Also just want to throw out too that the Gourmand set is absolutely crazy when it comes to profitability, so you're definitely able to utilize that. And this one also gives some really good additional tips that we're going to sprinkle throughout this video, such as utilizing Miri when you use that, but also don't forget too the Treasure Hunter and the Fortune's Favor perks will also make sure that you get the maximum bang for your buck when you do open these bad boys. And if you're curious what that skin looks like, it is the Bark Root Blessing, and it makes you look like a tree zombie. It's the best way that I could describe it to you. And I can hear you waiting with bated breath. What is the reason that everyone is clamoring for these Apocrypha and Necrom treasure maps? And the goofy reason is they decided, you know what? We could add to treasure maps more leads, but not for motifs, because those are sellable and people love to sell motifs. We are going to add furnishings, but we are going to make these furnishings bound. Which admittedly is exceptionally painful. So, to my understanding, and this could be a glitch, but I don't think it is, but all of the furnishings that you get from here, you're not able to sell them. You yourself are going to have to use these. So, a lot of people who are interested in 100%ing or completing all the antiquities or just, you know, decorating their house with some specific items are going to have to be resigned to either farming treasure maps that it's going to be hard for you to get the specific ones because treasure maps just kind of come to you randomly while you're playing, or they're going to have to pay an arm and a leg for, you know, a 1 in 50 chance to get the lead drop that they're interested in. So it's not a very favorable mechanic that people are necessarily happy with. I'm just the messenger who's just delivering the information that this is why these treasure maps generally sell for a lot. Interestingly enough, the zone itself doesn't have any sets that are really selling crazily well. The actual ingredients that go into different things there are okay. You know, the other little minor components that you pick up might be decent, but I would honestly say if you're not interested in these furnishings, just sell the maps. But if you are, obviously you should do them, and that's what I wanted you guys to gain from this video, is a general overview of all the little nitty-gritty pieces for this zone's good for this reason, this zone's good for this reason, this zone does have this motif attached to it. However, it's been out for so long, it's probably more of a skip. So that's going to kind of depend on you, what you are looking for, and if any of these things interest you. If you're curious as to what the lead drop rate is for motifs, this is all speculative based on my personal data. I seem to get one in every 4. Some of the older base game ones, it feels like more like 1 in 5. But it's hard to know because these are not really statistical data points that are released to us. And, it's always so, random as to you could go 20 maps without getting one. You could get one with 5 treasure maps. So without knowing the actual statistical data point, it's hard to actually tell you what it is. But that's generally around the rates that you should be looking for. And we have a hello YouTube as we're wrapping up the video. Let me know what you guys thought. Did you enjoy this breakdown of the treasure maps? There's just a helpful way to break it down, kind of sprinkle the information throughout a video. I am probably going to try to translate this into some sort of written format in the Discord, which is also linked in the comments below, generally too in the description, because fun fact, YouTube every so often will delete links for some reason. I don't know why. That's why sometimes when you ask for a link to something, I have to say, could you add me on Discord? So if you are looking for a link or anything, send it to me on Discord versus the YouTube comments, because YouTube is a little weird. But we are still doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you have to do to enter is like the video. Just leave a like on the video, and as many videos that are posted throughout the month as you want. Hey, they're free to give. And be subscribed. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. It's a crazy milestone. It's probably more people in the town that I grew up in, which is ridiculous to think about. And the third thing is a random word we flashed upon the screen nonchalantly. Don't mind. Don't worry. There'll be an audio cue and everything. If you're the first person to comment that word, you will win. So thank you guys so much again, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
Don't worry, I promise the next video will have a pun. But I made this, and I was like, I should make this as a short. And then I could also use it as an intro to the video, because people are like, oh, Somerset maps are so good, because they're DLC zone. And I'm like, Somerset maps are hot trash. So that was like my way to kind of, add a little bit of intrigue at the beginning of the video.